Hello and welcome to the PedrozaTravel show, the show where every week we take you on a new and interesting discovery into some random place in the world. My name is John Pedroza and I am ready for a nice and interesting show today. It should be very interesting. We have several guests here on the show today and we're looking forward to a great show. Before we get into the show today, I'm trying out some new stuff, so let's come into the show with a new topic that I'm calling, well, I should say first, we are at 982 subscribers as of today. Welcome into the house, Sea Lake Journeys. Welcome in. We got a raid coming in from the Sea Lake Journey crew. It's good to have you here. So here, as we come in, we're talking about the road to 1K. We're celebrating. I'm at officially 982 subscribers. If there's anybody out there who is not subscribed already, please do so. It helps the channel, and you get an extra travel channel show every week. So what's bad with that? Let's talk about that. Guys, so let's help everybody out. And if you haven't subscribed to everybody's channel, please do so. And well, with that, I'd like to show you our special guest for today. Today's guest today is going to be a fun one. So to do this, I think I'm going to bring up a little bit of a video here and ask everybody out in the audience, have you ever been out on the ocean and heard the ocean go along, and then you hear those waves, and you ever thought to yourself, why don't I just stay there in Mexico? Well, that is the topic of the day today. The topic of the day is we are going to be talking about what it takes to be an expat in Mexico. And to do that, we have some very special guests. And for our special guest today, we have two travelers in Mexico. I'd like to welcome them to the show. So please give a warm welcome to Marc and Paulette from Two Travelers in Mexico. Welcome into the show. We are so happy to have you. Hopefully we can hear you too. Are you there?
We're happy to be here.
I lost the sound on them. Okay, there you are. Thank you for coming in the show, Marc.
And everything.
Follow with the applause and everybody. I need to give a big shout out to everybody who's coming into the show. Welcome to the show, Sea Lake Journeys. Thank you for the raid. Enjoy your podcast today, talking about the MSC Seaside Yacht Club. Very interesting show that they had today, talking about all the different features that you get coming with the Yacht Club. Also, welcome in is Acme in England. I'm going to change the screen. There, now we got Paulette in the screen. I couldn't see you on the edge there, Paulette. There we go. If I do that, I can see the screen there.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show all the way from England. Welcome NetsBlog21 into the show. Thank you for coming in. We are talking to Marc and Paulette from Two Travelers in Mexico, talking about the expat journey and what it takes. And thank you so much, Chasing the American Dream. Everybody needs success in their channel. I think it's important that we help each other out.
Brittany and Joe.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. And welcome to the show. I hope so too. I hope I get to 1K. We're working on it. Every day we're working on it. And welcome to the show, RCA TV. Hello, everybody out there. Thank you for coming in. I see a lot of hellos in the chat. And Marc, the question here is, where are Marc and Paulette at? Well, Marc and Paulette are coming to us all the way from San Luis Potosi, which is a city and a state in Mexico. And do you want to let us know where is San Luis Potosi in Mexico, Marc?
It is in the Central Highlands, probably about an 8-hour drive from the Texas border if you're crossing it, like Laredo. Yeah, so it's about 8 hours south of the border.
Yeah, just
There.
located that's about right. About 8 hours south of the border is San Luis Potosi. It's a pretty big metropolitan area. Do you know the population out there by any chance?
It's about 900,000
That's
people.
pretty big. That's like
Yeah.
3 times the size of Riverside, California. And we'll go more into where you
Yeah.
guys came from there. We got some great questions for you today. We got some more hellos out in the house. We got Cindy K's out in the house.
Oh,
Welcome, Cindy
I
K.
gotta say,
you know?
Cindy K is like the best subscriber. She's so nice all the time in her comments.
Well, thank you for coming in, Cindy K. We have Papa got a GoPro.
Oh, Papa.
Oh,
Coming in,
Jeff.
Papa. Thank you. And he got his first $14 check. Well, I think that's a good round of applause.
Yeah.
$14 check. Don't go spending it all in one place. Your subscriber out there, Cindy K, says hello, Marc and Paulette. We have
Hi,
Support
Hi, Cindy.
Baby. Welcome to the show, Support Baby. Love seeing all these new names. It must be your followers because I'm not recognizing these names. But welcome to the show, Support Baby. And my other channels make hundreds a month. Okay, that is awesome. Great job on that. That is the dream. The American dream.
Yep.
Except today we're talking about the Mexican dream. We're not talking about the American dream. We're
That's
talking about
right.
the Mexican
Right.
dream today.
Chasing
Oh,
the
no.
American dream in Mexico.
They're
No,
saying that
just
they can only see
basically
me. Is anybody else having this problem? Can we all see Marc and Paulette? You're showing up on the screen on my end here. Please let me know in the chat. I'll switch over if we can't see them. Let's try that. And I can also remove myself from the screen. I'm going to remove myself now. Paulette out there. Does that help? I put you on the left.
I can only see John. That was 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
And you guys comment if you can see all of us on here.
Okay, they're saying that they still can't see you out in the chat. That's interesting. Let me go to a live view of the channel itself and see what's going on there. I don't know why they can only see. Oh, that's interesting. No, you're blank on the screen. They can hear you, but you're blank. Something's going wrong again. I'll need you, Marc. If you can, Marc, on the bottom, let's check your video settings. If you go to settings again, to video, go to the bottom of your video settings where it shows the camera settings, the actual camera settings,
Settings.
and then to video.
Are you talking about like the 3-dot one?
Well, on the main screen, you should
Or-
see a gearbox. Sorry, folks, as we work through this technical
Oh,
difficulty.
okay.
Look at the gearbox there, and then go to
Yeah.
video
Uh-huh.
and see if you can bring yourself back in. I'm going live screen right now. What I'm going to do, that's weird. I don't know why you can't see you. Okay, you went back to the W. I'm going to remove you from screen, and then I'm going to wait to see you. I see you come back in. Now I'm adding you back into the screen. Let's see if that helps. No, you're still coming up as just a circle face. That is very weird. I am sorry, folks. I don't know why that's happening.
And
Yeah,
Marc's the IT guy. He should be
Yeah.
able to figure this out.
Yeah,
Well,
I see you within the program, but I don't see you out of the program. That is strange. On the channel, I see what our guests are seeing, and they're just seeing like a blank. They're seeing like a gray face there. That is weird. Now, does your camera have any camera settings? Can you bring it down? Like maybe it's at a 4K setting and you can bring it down to a 10K setting? I mean, a 1080p setting? Like on your computer yourself?
well, I'm on 720p. I could take it down to like a 480.
720, you
helps.
should be fine. And it's very weird.
So-
It's weird that I can see you
Yeah.
on the show. I can see you through emotes, but not through there. That's weird. I've not encountered this problem before. I don't know if you want to try going out and coming back into the scene, or should we just continue on? I think we're going to have to continue on with just an audio only here. Sorry, folks, about the change there. Appreciate everybody waiting in. We have lots of people coming in the show. I see Scratch and Pete coming into the show today. Thank you for coming in, Pete. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. See Magnificent Germany from Darian on the show today. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, I'm not sure why over there. It's just you're not coming in on, for some reason, YouTube is not streaming. They're streaming your audio. They can hear your audio, but not your face there. That is a very weird thing that we're dealing with. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulty. Sometimes you just go.
Yeah, I don't.
But we do have your voice
know.
on screen. We do have your voice. So thank you for coming in on the show all the same. We appreciate you being here. So what I think I'm going to do here, since we can't have you there, maybe I don't even know if I have a picture of you to show. Let me, I could, you know what I can do? I'm going to try to go over to your channel. Let's go over to your channel and let's see if we can at least get a picture of you up so everybody knows who you are. That is so weird why we can't see you today. But while I'm doing that, so if you don't mind letting us know, so let's learn more about, I'm pulling up your channel right now. I'm going to do a, let's share over, let's go over there, share this tab instead. I'm going to try to add this to the screen and we'll do it this way. And hopefully everybody can see, at least we can see your channel this way. If you can see the channel, please let me know. At least we can see their channel. We're looking at two travelers in Mexico here on the PedrozaTravel channel. Experience a little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll get through as we learn more about the two travelers in Mexico. So the two travelers in Mexico, if you haven't already been to their channel, I would encourage you to go to their channel. They have a great channel with a great community of over 4,000 subscribers. They have so many good topics for them on their channel. So first of all, we talked about where you're coming from, Marc and Paulette, and why did you decide to start a YouTube channel?
Well, originally we decided to start a YouTube channel just so our relatives and friends back in the U.S. could, just see what we're seeing and come along with the adventure. And then over time, other people started joining and subscribing to our channel too, and so it kind of became really a bigger thing than I think we imagined it would be. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, we started it just so our family and friends could kind of follow what we were doing during our travels. And
yeah. We're getting rain here.
Oh, it's raining out there, huh? Okay. Oh, we're getting some breakup. Are you still there? I think we're losing them, or maybe we're losing myself. The feed on my side, I think, is cracking up. I think we're having some, and now we lost connection. I think we just lost Marc and Paulette.
okay.
Thank you for the support, everyone. We're losing we're losing a little bit of connection here. We're talking. Are you back? Are they back? I think you're back. And guess what? People can see you now. I can hear you with the rain. Yay, we can see you now.
Yeah.
You're there. You're back.
But you're usually the IT guy. I figured that
you're back. Can you
hear
us?
On the way that the meeting is set up, I think. Chasing the American Dream. They can see us. Can you see John?
Hello. Yeah, I think we're back.
John.
Yeah.
I think he's trying
We're
to
both back now. Okay.
do this
Back,
so
and I can
all
hear
of
the
us
rain
can get
back
in
there.
it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're back again. So, okay. So we were talking about your YouTube channel
Oh, so
and how you
you
built your
guys
community.
can see John?
Yeah, they can see us now. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Jason, the American Dream. I can hear rain as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's from our end here at the Two Travelers in San Luis Potosi.
yeah.
It's
So-
starting to rain right now and hitting the glass window where we are.
Looks like John's back.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, good. I think we're back on track again. Sorry, folks, for all the
People said they could see us
difficulties
now
there.
too.
So continuing on, so you started your community, and what was your first YouTube video? Do you remember?
Our first video was about our process for, packing up, changing our home address from California to South Dakota, basically for tax reasons because South Dakota doesn't have state income tax and lower vehicle registration, so it just made sense to change our home location to South Dakota financially.
Okay. So your first video was talking about South Dakota, which is a very interesting topic, and we'll get into that more. And so,
Oh, yeah, I guess you can see us all.
Yeah.
yes,
You can see us
you're back
on
in
video?
business again.
Okay.
Everybody can see you again.
I
And so,
know.
where do you see your channel going in 5 years?
Where to, like San Luis Potosi?
No, your channel. Where would you like it to be in 5 years?
You know, I don't know. Every YouTuber's dream is to get more subscribers and things like that too. And I don't know. We'll probably never be like a super big channel or anything like that, but we'll just continue putting out videos of the things we do around here, the things that are interesting to us, the things that are different. We'll do some travel video.
Looks like we have another Californian in the house. Welcome, Ambrose Molina from Williams, California. Or is that Williams, Canada? I don't know. I don't know a Williams, California. Do you?
It's Williams, California. It's on, I think, Highway 5.
It is
You would
on
take
Highway
it up.
5.
You would take it up that, and then when you get to Williams, you could go to like Fort Bragg as an example.
Okay,
Williams
I
is
know
a
where
cute
Fort Bragg
place.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, Northern California. And welcome
Yeah.
into the house, Golden Girl into the house, and welcome everyone as well.
Yay!
Yes, in 5 years, they're saying that you will have taught the entire world about San Luis Potosi. San Luis Potosi is an interesting city. I have been to San Luis Potosi. It is a beautiful place. It is a very colonial town. Now, what's interesting is most people, when they go to Mexico, they think about the beaches. They think about places like Cancun, the Riviera Maya, Puerto Vallarta, maybe even like Huatulco. But San Luis Potosi is not a known destination. So I'm curious, like, what made you decide to go to San Luis Potosi? What was the enduring factor there?
Well, it started for us when we were living in Morelia, actually, and we were driving back to the U.S. because Paulette couldn't get rid of enough of her stuff, so we had to make a trip to pick up more.
That's not very nice.
And we stopped one night in San Luis on our way to the border, and we just thought, we got to come back and check this place out a little more, a little more in depth. But it certainly left an impression on us just even after one night. So we did that. Coming back from California, we stayed quite a few nights here, and at that point we decided that we were going to move here. It was going to be our next move, since our lease in Morelia was almost up.
Very interesting.
And then we just kind of came and stayed.
That's great. That's great. And I'm sure there was nothing in the car that was yours, Mark, right? Nothing was in the car was yours, right? Just kidding.
There might have been a pair of shoes or something, but
Okay, a pair of shoes or something. Okay. Anyways, for everyone out in the chat today, if you'd like to share out your channel, I do support sharing out. If you type in hashtag drop link out in the chat today, that will share out your channel link. Please subscribe to everybody and please add to the community. That's what this is all about. This is about building the community and learning more about what's out there and maybe some extra travel destinations. And I think exactly, Golden Girl, I think that's awesome. When we get to travel and go and learn, that's what traveling really means. So we're talking today about making the decision to move to Mexico. That is the topic of the day today, making the decision. And so I know a little bit about your channel because I'm one of your subscribers. I'm Marc and Paulette to your channel. I love your channel. And I know that you came from California, which I'm from California too. And so what was the primary factor for you to move to Mexico? I know that you did some exploratory views, but there's a difference there, I think, between exploratory trips and actually making the decision. How did that go down?
well, we knew that when I retired, we were going to, move abroad somewhere. And we looked at Portugal and we looked at Spain, which were both amazing countries, but they were just a little too far away in case we had to come home. Yeah, and Ecuador twice. But we realized they were just a little too far away in case we needed to come back to the U.S. for some emergency of some kind. And then we traveled to Mexico in 2018. And we just fell in love with everything about it. The culture, the people, architecture. Yeah. It just took our breaths away, really. And that was we stayed about 3 weeks or so in Guanajuato, but during that time we stayed a few days in Querétaro and Morelia for a couple of days and a couple other places too. But we used Guanajuato as the base, which is a beautiful city. However, in Guanajuato, you're either walking uphill or downhill.
Yes, for those that are not in the know, Guanajuato is another beautiful colonial town. Sounds like you were very much drawn to the colonial, which is interesting because you don't get a lot of people talking about colonial towns over the beach towns. So were you always into the colonial towns, or did you look at the beach towns and you said this wasn't my gig, or what?
We were into the elevation because we knew that we didn't want to be hot and humid, which most of the beach towns in Mexico are. Mexico is a country of many climates, and so we chose to live higher up, a little less humidity. Not quite as hot. It's closer to what we came from in Sacramento in terms of weather, although it doesn't get as cold as Sacramento did, nor does it get as hot. It's, pretty comfortably most days between 70 and 85, would you say?
I would say.
And in the coldest time of the year, it gets down to the mid 40s, but you just layer up,
Or the low 40s at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how we made that decision, mostly just based on elevation more than anything else.
Plus the mountains are beautiful to look at. We have a great view of the mountains where we live.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think one of the biggest misnomers about Mexico is that it is just a beach destination. But Mexico as a country is huge. There's 100 million people in Mexico, and I think sometimes people fail to realize with 100 million people, you're going to get variety like you've never seen before. And it's very different. It's very different than what most people know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, go right ahead.
So Mexico by volume, geographical volume, is almost entirely highlands. I mean, you have beach community, it's got an east and west coast, but that, in terms of landmass, it really represents a pretty small portion of Mexico.
Yes, it's a very small part. And there's a lot more to discover. I know personally, if you've been on this channel before, you'll see a lot of ancient American sites on my site, because that's what I love about Mexico is you have, not only do you have the Mayan, but you have all these original Native American cultures. You have the Mayan, you have the Aztecs, you have the Chichimeca, you have the Purepeche, and they're all out there. Most people think of Mexico just for the Aztecs, but there was a lot more people out here before the Aztecs. So
Right.
the
No,
cultural diversity is amazing. And hello, Fearless Rambler. Fearless Rambler is, last time I heard from him, he was doing like fancy dining. It was his elegant night over on a ship. I forget what cruise ship he's on, but thank you for saying hello out on the high seas. Normally he's in Utah, but today he's on the high seas. I think he's on the Carnival Harmony today.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
coming from the cruise ship. Speaking of ships going to Mexico, that's another way that you can get to Mexico. It's on a cruise ship. Done it lots of times.
Yeah.
So coming to this idea of coming to Mexico and making the decision to Mexico is very interesting to me. I know that retiring in Mexico has been a popular topic, but I think one of the things that people forget about when they talk about retiring to Mexico is, first, we need to know what the requirements are for moving to Mexico. And I'm very interested in thing. I've watched many of your videos, and I know the first thing that you did was you went to your local consulate's office. And
Yeah.
what did you do at your local consulate office?
Well, we tried to get temporary residency there at the consulate in Sacramento. Um, in fact, Paulette actually went 3 times, and it wasn't until the third time that they actually gave her the temporary residency. They were just a little bit difficult to work with. As an example, one of the times we both went because we had enough money in our savings account for the both of us to qualify. But one of the things is that your bank account will only qualify one of the people. You can't use it for 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, I think that's how Paulette herself got qualified
No, because I went there,
3 times.
yeah, but I went there twice without you, I think.
Yeah,
I went there twice without you.
yeah.
I say they just got tired of seeing my
Yeah.
face and coming back, so they
Yeah.
said, just give it to her, get her
Just
out
give
of
it to
here.
her, yeah.
Yes.
She's
So for
taken
those
up
out in the audience that are thinking about maybe moving to Mexico, most people, I think, understand that to go to Mexico, even as a visitor, you need to have a valid passport. Your passport needs to be valid for at least 6 months, and there are no visa requirements to enter into Mexico as a visitor, but you will be asked to fill out an immigration card when you come in.
Yeah.
If you come in by land, you do that at land at one of the stops, and if you come in by airplane, they will give that to you when you arrive in Mexico. That's the immigration form that you get. But what Mark and Paul are talking about is if you want to stay beyond those 6 months, if you're an American, you can stay 180 days and then you have to leave and come back. But if you want to stay beyond, you have 2 options. You can go for what's called temporary residency, or you can go for permanent residency. And with the temporary residency, how long does that get you for, Mark and Paulette?
The first time is 1 year.
Yes, 1 year
And then
is what you get. And what you need to do is you need to go to your local embassy if you're not in the United States, or if you're in Washington, D.C., I guess, or more likely you're going to go to your local consulate office. And you touched up on a subject there that you need to show not only that you are a valid U.S. citizen and have a valid U.S. passport, but you also need to show financial requirements. In my case, I'm lucky. I'm actually a descendant of a Mexican. My father is Mexican, and so I have a Mexican passport. And so that makes me a Mexican national by birth. That's kind of common here in Southern California. But if you don't have that, you can do it different ways. You can get in and have temporary residency by marriage. If you're married to a Mexican, for example, my wife, she can have temporary residency because she's married to me, a Mexican. Or you can get in under the financial requirements. The financial requirements vary from year to year, and they also vary from consulate to consulate office. So it sounds like you went to the Sacramento consulate's office.
Yeah, but let me say something here, John. You can actually go to any consulate. It doesn't have to be your local consulate. It's a lot of people will go wherever it's the easiest to get in, maybe not even have an appointment. Some of them will take you as you come in the door. A lot of them want appointments only. But you can go, a lot of people go to Las Vegas. They say it's very easy there. Mark went to Tucson, Arizona, and he got his, and it was pretty simple. He was, wow, we've got some lightning out there. And he was going to just apply for temporary. That was both of our plans. But when he came back, no, it was when he went there, they told him, oh, we'll let you have permanent, which was amazing. But he didn't take it. He took the temporary. He should have taken the permanent.
If he took the permanent, he could have gotten you in as a permanent Mexican resident. You could have been, that spouse.
I know.
Visa.
I know.
The caveat is that we wanted to bring our car in.
But only one of us wasn't thinking. He wasn't thinking.
So
you didn't talk to me about it.
No.
Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, you can bring in your car. That's a good point to bring up. You can bring your car to Mexico. You get what's called a TIP. It's TIP. It's the temporary importante papelito, I think it's called. Anyway, it's the temporary import permit in English. And what that allows you to do is you can pay for an out of Mexico registered car, and you can have your car with you for 6 months, and then you have to bring it out, and you have to renew that tip. But also, as a Mexican, as a permanent, you can do the same thing, but it's called the Paisano program. So if you go under the Paisano program, you can also temporarily import your car for 6 months. You just have to leave the country again.
Okay, one other thing that I wanted to say, as temporary, it's good for the whole year.
Yeah.
It's good for the whole year, not 6 months.
Yes, you're temporary.
Tourist would be 6 months, the 180 days. But as a temporary, you can get it for the whole year.
Yes, and that is an advantage that you have under the temporary program, because me, as a Mexican national, the most I can get is 6 months, just like a regular tourist, which is weird. I can visit my country with my car for 6 months. Of course, I can stay as long as I want. I just can't stay with my car as long as I want. So we've got some more people. Welcome in the muster drill. Welcome in Together We Travel. Thank you for coming in. You're watching the Pedroza Travel Show, and we are live with Marc and Paulette from Two Travelers in Mexico, and we're talking about the expat experience here and what it's like to actually have gone from the United States and made the move. And you actually bought property in Mexico, correct? You own your house that you're in. So what was that like?
That's an interesting process.
Everything's interesting.
Everything's interesting.
Well, that's why you're on the show.
So, I mean, I don't know how much you want me to go into it, but even dealing with real estate agents was interesting, because there's no, I don't think there's not like an MLS here, as an example. So you just contact different real estate agents, or you go on Facebook Marketplace and say, hey, I'd like to look at this place or that place. And
it's not like a lot of them aren't licensed. It's not a requirement. They just know a friend who's selling some property, and they just go out there and do it.
So we did that. A lot of times the agents would show up with their entire family in the car, and then we would have to follow them to wherever we were going. And so that was kind of an interesting aspect. But so probably getting more to the point of your question, once you make a deal on a property, your next step is going to be to go to the notaria. And as the buyer, you actually get to pick the notaria that you want to go to, which is important because the notarias can charge anywhere from
Notario público.
notario.
Yeah.
So, and they can charge you anywhere from 3 to 10% of the total sales price of the house, which the buyer has to pay. And so that's important to shop notarios to get, the best deal you can get. So we selected a notario. We went there. They filled out some initial paperwork.
And you have to get the approval from the government.
You have to, because we own the land we were buying the land that our house sits on. We had to get approval from the government to be able to buy land. And they had to approve both of us separately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you brought up some very interesting points there. So first of all, for my audience who may have never gone into real estate in Mexico before, when you first go to Mexico, if you're not on the cruise ship and your hotel room didn't come with you, there are several options to get temporary residency in Mexico. There's always the traditional route. The first traditional route is the hotel. You can always get a hotel, and if you're staying for a week or maybe 2 weeks, a hotel is a great option. But maybe if you're staying a bit longer, you'll look into Airbnb. And that's probably the Airbnb and the hotel process, I think, is where most of my viewers might be the most familiar with, because there, like you said, there's websites out there for that. You can book. It's an easy booking process for most people to understand. Now, when you go beyond a couple of months in Mexico, things get a little bit stickier, because real estate in Mexico is not the same as real estate, as you said, in the United States. In Mexico, land is different, and land is owned by several different people. It's not always owned by the owner. It might be leased by the owner. There are things that Mark just described, which are notario públicos. They're notaries, but they're not like the notaries that we have here in the United States. They are official government agents. Their fees, they collect official government fees, and they can make official registrations. So if you hear of a notario público, think of them more as like a national registrars. I call them national registrars. The literal translation is notary public, but it's not like the notary public who just verifies your signature here in the United States. A notary public in Mexico is a government agent, is a federal government agent, and is registered with the federal government to know what the land title is. Because, as you said, oftentimes, if you are thinking about buying real estate, it is very important not to know who your real estate agent is. There are so many real estate scams in Mexico, and many foreigners get trapped into Mexico. Get trapped into these real estate scams because they don't understand what land is like. First of all, if you are buying land within 50 miles of the border or 50 miles of the coastline, as a foreigner, you are technically not allowed to own the land. You have to lease the land. That's what Mark was talking about. If you are in the interior, San Luis Potosi is different. If you're in the interior, you as a foreigner can own the land as long as 50% or less of the population is not a foreigner. It's going back to that whole Texas thing. It goes back to the 1800s in Texas. In the 1800s in Texas, Mexico had a lot of land and they wanted it populated, so they invited a lot of Texas in to their land, and it ended up going to the United States because more foreigners were living on the land, basically, than Mexicans were. So now the law of the land in Mexico is more nationals have to be on the land than foreigners, otherwise foreigners can't own the land. But that doesn't apply in a big place like San Luis Potosi, because you have 900,000 people there. I'm sure there are more locals there than foreigners in San Luis Potosi.
Yeah, there are very few expats here. We have a couple expats that are friends, but we seldom run into any other expats on the street. But John, I wanted to get back to something you were saying. I mean, you can still buy property on the coastlines and close to the border. However, like you said, you don't really ever own the property. You can lease it for like a 99-year lease or something like that. And then that's it. And I don't even know if after you pass on, your relatives can inherit that land or not.
They
I'm not
can.
quite
They
sure.
can inherit that lease, and you can renew the lease after 99 years. It's
Okay.
just paperwork. It goes into what's called a trust, and technically,
Right.
the bank trust owns your land, but you're the active controlling interest in it, so you really do own the land. The bank trust owns the
Yeah.
land. It's just one extra piece of paper. It makes it a lot more simpler if you're on the interior or if you're a Mexican national, because you don't have to get that extra piece of paper that
Yeah.
establishes a Mexican land trust. But
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, you can extend that.
Mm.
I've never heard of a land trust not being extended after 99 years, and I've never heard of it not
Yeah.
passing on to heirs.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
That's
But
good
technically,
Yeah.
if the government didn't like you, if you were persona non grata, let's say you said something really bad, they could end your lease after 99 years. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can yank it
Yeah.
out. But you're different. You're in San Luis Potosi, so you own the title straight out. They can't really do that to you. In fact,
Yeah.
after 5 years of being a temporary resident, you have the right to have permanent residency in Mexico. That is
Oh,
one of the things.
really?
Yes.
I did
After
not know
5
that.
years of being a temporary resident with land, you have the right to permanent residency in Mexico.
Oh.
You
Well,
are
let's
land
see, but
title
you-
holder, which gives you a different status
can-
in Mexico. I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on that. But if you have an immigration lawyer after 5 years, you
Yeah.
might want to talk to them being a land title owner. You have the right to permanent residency after 5 years.
But here's the other problem. The first year when you come over as temporal, because you want to bring your car, let's say, the first year it's 1 year, then you can renew it before that 1 year expires to 1 more year, 2 years, or 3 years. You only have a maximum of 4.
years.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't go 5 unless I went back to the States,
Yeah.
started the process all over again to give
Yeah.
me that 1 more year. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. You can renew it. You might want to look and talk to an immigration attorney, because as landowners, your land might have enough value that you could possibly now get permanent residency outright. There is another process. If you own land in Mexico, if you actually have the title, if the value of the land is high enough, you can actually get permanent residency just based off your land title. But it has to be over a certain dollar amount.
Yeah, ours is not.
But I think because I'm permanent, worst case scenario is Paulette just comes in under me.
Well, and that's another option for you too. If you're permanent now, Mark, I don't see why you don't get a spousal visa for her. You could easily do that way too.
Yeah.
So either way, I mean, even if you have to go out, you just go out for a day and then you come back.
Yeah.
There's always that. But that brings us up to another question here. So if you are, some of the advantages, it's not just staying, some of the advantages of staying in Mexico as a temporary resident go beyond just being able to stay for a year. There's also financial incentives to do so as well. For example, one of the things that you can do as a temporary resident in Mexico is you can open a Mexican bank account, which a tourist does not
do.
do.
Videos on that. Yeah. That's been a nightmare.
Okay, I'm interested. What's your views on that?
That was a nightmare. We do have one now after our 7th try, but it was a complete nightmare. Now we have what is it, Intercam?
Intercam.
Which says they're like foreign friendly. So we do have them now, but let me tell you, it was a nightmare. We did a whole video, I think, on that.
And we've gone into banks and asked them if a temporary resident can open an account, and they've said no.
Yeah.
Not even with your CURP number?
Not even with the CURP.
Wow.
No.
Usually, folks,
Not
by the
Not
way,
even with our RFC.
Yeah.
yeah,
We have
if
the
you have an
RFC.
RFC, that's a national identification. CURP is also a national, it's kind of like a Mexican social security number, but it's not used for social security. It's a national registry number. And usually if you have a CURP number, you can open up a bank. But I don't know what it's like in San Luis Potosi. I've only dealt with Mexico City and Aguascalientes before with the banking institutes. And that's the thing, folks. You need to know that every region is different. Yeah, no, it's
John,
strong out there.
it's hailing right now.
Storm out there.
Yeah.
Now, your house.
Sorry.
Talking about finding a place to stay. A lot of houses in Mexico, people need to know, are made out of concrete or they're corrugated steel. So do you have a corrugated steel roof or is it a concrete roof?
Well, it's a concrete roof except for the car. We just had a car cover installed over our driveway, and that's metal. So that's where you're getting a lot of the sound.
Yeah, sorry about that. I can't control the weather, unfortunately.
No problem. We roll with it. If any traveler out there, my number one advice to all travelers everywhere is you need to know that you just need to be flexible. Because if you're not flexible as a traveler, you will not be able to survive, really. That's the number one advice that I can always give to all travelers everywhere is just be flexible. Bad things will happen, and as long as you can roll with it, you'll be good wherever you are, including the rainstorm that wants to interrupt the podcast, but we'll deal with it. It's all good.
Yeah.
And the comment here by Chasing the American Dream is, we need to get a bank. The exchange rates are killing us. That is some interesting news development that has happened lately here in Mexico. Today was the first time that the peso reached back to the 17 mark. So right now it's 17 pesos to $1, which is very interesting.
17?
Yeah, it's 17 to 1 right now,
Wow.
which is a first in 7 years for Mexico. High oil prices have helped Mexico tremendously. And Mexico, not many people know this, but Mexico outside of Saudi Arabia is one of the number one exporters of oil throughout the world. And they have been going gangbusters on the Ukrainian war right now. With oil prices being up, that means a lot of extra money is flowing into Mexico, and that is translating into the exchange rate. Yeah. So be careful out these days. You're going to see increased ATM rates, and you're going to see lower exchange rates if you're exchanging your dollars into pesos.
And I mean, it's not great if you get paid in U.S. dollars and you're living in Mexico. However, you know, the bigger picture is that Mexico is better off for, you know, financially better off for it, I think. And so it's a little bit tougher, but, you know, look at the big picture. Mexico, I think, is doing better, at least a little bit anyway.
And let's be honest here, Mexico is still 10 times cheaper than California. So I think if you're an American, you can still handle it. And if you're a Californian, you can definitely handle it.
I mean, you know, I did some numbers, John, before we moved here, you know, about what the cost of living would be here versus in the U.S. And I figured it would take us about 40% of what it costs to live in the U.S. to live here in Mexico. And actually, well, it might be back to 40% now with the lower exchange rate. But for a while, I think we're actually closer to about 35% of what it costs to live here as opposed to, say, Sacramento, California.
Yeah. So talking about the differences between the United States and Mexico, I'd like to touch on the topic of Mexican culture. How did you find, what are your opinions on the differences between Mexican culture and United States culture?
I will say that the United States really doesn't have much culture. And I love the fact that Mexico keeps their culture and celebrates it. It is so dear to my heart.
Yeah. The culture here is really more family oriented, I would say.
No, I'm talking like their customs and all that stuff.
Well, that's
their celebrations and all that. They embrace it, and I love that.
Yeah.
They embrace it, their culture, and that's what I absolutely love about Mexico.
Which is very interesting to me because as a nation, the United States is older than Mexico. The United States was established in 1776. And Mexico was not established until the year 1810. But as you probably know, and I don't know how much my audience knows, the culture in Mexico goes way far back. And on different levels, because you have cultures such as the Native Americans, such as the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Chichimeca, the Purépecha, which goes back thousands of years. But even if you want to go into more Western ideology, you have the Spanish that came in 600 years ago and brought in a lot of the colonial architecture that you see today. So whereas Mexico is a newer country than the United States, you will often find cities in Mexico that were established 100, 200, even 300 years before the first American cities were established. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Probably the best quote I've heard about Mexico is Mexico has a very old soul.
Yes, it does have a very old soul.
Meaning that, and it's that's just one of the things. The other thing I wanted to make a point of is it's a much more family-oriented culture here too.
Absolutely.
It's very often you'll see 2 or 3 or sometimes more generations of family living in the same house, and the reason is that when mom and dad get older, the kids bring them into the house. They don't put them into a rest home like they would in the United States.
Yeah.
So
Andrew Northwest Coins has an interesting comment here. He says, culture, we have a strong culture. I am from Alaskan Native Eskimo Inuktitut. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. We still live the old ways. And I think I agree with Chasing the American Dream. That is incredible. And I do believe that the United States has what I call pockets of culture. There are pockets of culture. Alaska is certainly one of them. I mean, that is a major travel destination. Hawaii is another pocket of culture. I think Hawaii does a great job of keeping their culture. New Mexico, if you've ever been down to New Mexico area, that's great. But the majority, I agree with you, of Mexico, the United States, I say, is kind of what I call retail mass. Here in Southern California, you can easily drive from one area of California to the other area of California, and you would only know that you changed cities because that's what the road sign told you. But it just looks the same. And I think that's developed by the retail. And Mexico is going into the retail space, but has not quite gotten there yet. There are some there. You can spend a lot of money in Mexico if you want to, but you still have the plaza culture. And I love the plaza culture. I think the plaza is what defines Mexico. They are very family friendly in Mexico, but they're also community oriented. And being part of the community is very important in Mexico. I think if you're not part of the community, you are missing out on a major function of Mexico. The people there are amazing. They work really long hours, but they also party a lot in Mexico. If you've not been woken up by a party in Mexico, you haven't been in Mexico for long.
Yeah.
And barking dogs.
And barking
dogs, and maybe the cock waking you up at 2 a.m. or even at 11 a.m. because he woke up late.
Yeah. It's
so you never know. The rooster might wake you up a little bit later in Mexico. It's not uncommon. Yeah, it's kind of sad that we kind of, like when you turn 18 in Mexico, you're out. You got to go find your way. Get a job, get a haircut, and you're on your way out, right? That's the way it goes in the United States. And a lot of people have been chasing their dreams out in Mexico. And then all winter long, we had polar bears walking around my village where I live on 3 Mile Island. That is amazing. I'm actually going to be going to Alaska in July, and I hope I can see a polar bear. That would be amazing if I got to see that. That is just an amazing story. Thank you for
doing an Alaska cruise, John?
Yes, I'm going on Alaska cruise. I will be going July 30th. I leave on the Norwegian Bliss, starting from Seattle, Washington, all the way up to the glaciers and then back again for a week. And in there, I'll also be traveling to Canada as well, going to Victoria Falls, because I still have a goal to visit all the state capitals in all of North America. I've already
Nice.
visited all 32 states in Mexico. I've visited 26 states in the United States and one Canadian province. This will be my second Canadian province, so I'm very excited about that. So
Okay.
there'll be more videos. You're down south, I'll be up north this summer. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
When you go to Canada, if you could make it to a place called Banff, B-A-N.
Yes, I've heard of it.
It's really beautiful.
Okay. I will make a video
Just to
just
spend
for
like
you, Paulette, of Banff,
an
Canada.
afternoon or something.
Very good. We have the Z shows in the house. Welcome, Z.
Just because Paulette said so.
I'm going to go because Paulette told me to go. If Paulette tells me I have to go to Banff, Canada, well,
Right.
I think I better go to Banff, Canada. Wouldn't be the first time that I went because the viewer told me to go. Okay. And that's what I love about Canada. They have such green space. I don't know if I could live in Canada full time. It's a little bit too cold up there for me. But during the spring and the summertime, it's amazing. And that's one of the things too, talking about Mexico, going back to Mexico, is the weather is very interesting. Now down in the south of Mexico, I will say it gets very hot and very muggy. But in the middle of Mexico, it is very temperate. You will never see a real high and you'll never see a real low. One of my favorite places to go is Cuernavaca, Mexico, because they call that the eternal spring, the city of eternal spring. And I believe it. I've been there in the winter and in the summer, and it's always 71 degrees there. Maybe like 20 days of rain, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So,
and the farther south you go in Mexico, the more tropical in climate it becomes too.
yes.
Like in San Luis, this is really basically high desert area, but the farther south you go, it becomes more tropical in appearance and feel.
So I have a question for you guys. Have you found that it's been hard to be a part of your community there in San Luis Potosi? You said there's not a lot of foreigners there. So what does your community kind of look like there?
We live amongst Mexicans. In the area that we live, I think you could probably call it an upper middle class area, but it's all Mexicans. I think we're the only
gringos here.
Gringos here. But it's important to try to integrate yourself in whatever community you're in, because if you don't do that and you're not trying to integrate yourself into the culture that is Mexico, I think you're missing out on a lot.
And so have you ever felt homesick while you've been in San Luis Potosi?
Nope.
No feelings of homesick?
Nope.
That's interesting.
I mean, we miss our family and stuff, but homesick to go back to the U.S., no.
I have to admit, I lived full-time in Mexico City for 4 years. Loved it. Loved the time that I was in Mexico City for 4 years. But every so often, I would get a little bit of homesick for Mexico, for the United States. But I found that, luckily, when that happened, the first McDonald's were coming to Mexico City. So if I went to a McDonald's and had a Big Mac, that was pretty much all I needed for the homesickness. And then I would be good again.
Yeah.
And it's amazing too in Mexico that there are actually some American stores that are in Mexico that are no longer in the United States. For example, Sears is one of the stores that are still in Mexico but are no longer in the United States. You'll still see Sears. And another one that I just saw the other day is Radio Shack. There are Radio Shacks in Mexico.
There's also a Walgreens.
Well, Walgreens is still in the U.S. too.
Yes.
Woolworths.
Woolworths.
Woolworths, yes. I saw Woolworths.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
there.
But there are, if someone needs some conveniences that they're used to, there are also Walmarts here. There's Sam's Club, Costco's, Home Depot's.
I think it depends where you live in Mexico, though.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, like Oaxaca doesn't have any of that.
No, you'd have to go farther out.
Right, and Ajijic, Lake Chapala. You got to go into Guadalajara.
Yeah, you got to be close to
go those
Guadalajara.
places.
And there's still a 7-Eleven on every corner in every town that I've ever been to. So,
yeah.
although I prefer the
yeah.
OXXO over the 7-Eleven any day.
Yeah, just OXXO. There's at least 4 of them within really a couple blocks of our house, maybe 3 or 4 blocks. They're all over the place.
Well, very nice. Well, our hour has gone up quickly. It has been a pleasure having you here on the show today, Marc and Paulette. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope for those who have been watching the show, you got a little bit of a slice of life and maybe had some additional things on what you can consider on your expat journey to Mexico. If you are considering going to Mexico or considering the expat journey, I would highly encourage you to go out there and look at other people's blogs. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's people like Marc and Paulette out there, the 2 travelers in Mexico. There's lots of travel vlogs on almost every Mexican destination you can think of. And think outside the box. There is more to Mexico than just the beach towns. There's lots of places out there. I think that if you go and do those things and see those things, you'll learn the richness that is Mexico. Thank you so much for your time here on the show. Sorry about all the technical difficulties today, but we are so happy to have you. And for everyone else here on the show, thank you for being. Hope you give this a big thumbs up, and we will see you out there every week with a new travel adventure. Thanks again for coming, and always remember, chance. There you go. Go for it.
Whoever's watching that came from our Facebook group over to follow the link to John's channel, please check out his channel and subscribe to his channel. He's real close to 1,000 subscribers, which is a big milestone in terms of monetization and things like that. So it'd be very helpful to him. So we would appreciate it if you would subscribe on his channel, check out his videos. It's all good and useful information, and he does a lot of interesting tour videos in Mexico, as well as some cruise videos, which are also interesting.
Yep.
So
you never know on the PedrozaTravel channel what you're going to get. One day you could be in Mexico, and the next day you'll be in Canada. You just never know. So you got to subscribe to find out where we're going to be next week. Thank you for coming on the show, and we'll see you on the next one.